Hi everyone, this is Miss Anne, and today we're going to delve into the fascinating world of language borrowing. But before we start our proper discussion, I've prepared a short mind exercise for you. This is to assess whether you already have an idea of what language borrowing is. So, let's begin. Are you now ready for the mind exercise? Okay. Take a look at these words that will be flashed on the screen and tell me if you think they are borrowed words or native words. We commonly used or hear these words here in the Philippines. So, our first word is pizza. Again, our first word is pizza. You have 5 seconds to answer whether this word is a borrowed word or a native word. So the correct answer is a borrowed word. Pizza is a borrowed word originated from Italian language. The second word is ketchup. Again, the second word is ketchup. You have 5 seconds to answer. So the correct answer is borrowed word. Ketchup is a borrowed word, comes from Chinese word ketchup, which referred to a fermented fish sauce. The third word is karaoke. Again, the third word is karaoke. You have 5 seconds to answer. So karaoke is a borrowed word. It is a borrowed word. It is originated from a Japanese language. The last word we have is chocolate. Again, the last word we have is chocolate. You have 5 seconds to answer. Time's up. So if your answer is a borrowed word, then you're correct. So, chocolate is a borrowed word and it is originated from Aztec language. Great job for answering our mind exercise. So now, let's proceed to our lesson proper. Here are our learning objectives. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to know language borrowing, to identify and differentiate between the 4 main types of language borrowing. So now, let's start by defining what is language borrowing is. So what is language borrowing? Language borrowing, also known as lexical borrowing, refers to the process of adopting words from one language into another. This involves adopting a word from one language for use in another, resulting in a borrowed word or loaned word. Many previous researchers who researched the natural of borrowing use the definition of borrowing in a wider sense of taking over any language which is not original or natural language to you. So, language borrowing, also known as lexical borrowing, is a process of adopting words from one language into another. It's like taking a word from a foreign language and making it part of your own vocabulary. For example, the English word karaoke originated from the Japanese phrase karaoke, which means empty orchestra. The English pronunciation of karaoke has remained unchanged. So there are 4 types of language borrowing. First, the loan words, loan translations, calques, hybrid words. So now, let's define and give examples for each type of language borrowing. So the first type we have is loan words. What happens in loan words is that the language borrows its words from a source language and it keeps something of the original meaning of the word, and the words are usually adapted to the new language. So, the loan words are the most common type of borrowing. A language takes a word from one to another language and keeps its original meaning, often adapting the pronunciation and spelling to fit to the new language. For example, the English word pizza. It is a loan word from Italian language where it retains its original meaning of a flat bread topped with various ingredients. The second type we have is loan translations. So loan translation involves translating individual word elements according to the borrowed language's meaning. This results in adapting a translated word or phrase as a whole, with separate elements and usable individually. So loan translations involve translating individual word elements according to the borrowed language's meanings. It's like taking a phrase apart and translating each piece, then putting it back together as a new word. For example, the English word skyscraper was translated into German as Wolkenkratzer, meaning cloud scraper. So the third type we have is calques. The word calques comes from the French word mean tracing, which basically gives us the idea that words are translated part by part of it. A calque is a word or phrase adopted from another language by a process of literal word-by-word translation. So calques, which means tracing in French, are words or phrases adopted through literal word-by-word translation. It's like tracing a picture, you're copying the exact form and structure of it. For example, the English phrase Adam's apple was translated into French as pomme d'Adam, meaning Adam's apple. So pomme means apple. The fourth type we have is the hybrid words. The hybridity is the state of that is composed of being parts of different sources. There are some words that belong to hybrid words as a result of the input of two source languages. One type uses Latin alphabets and numerical digits such as L8R. It is the shortened term for later. Another type combines elements to form compound words like Song Liang, English map plus Chinese Liang, pretending generosity. Hybrid words are combinations of elements from different languages. They can be formed by blending letters, sounds, or even entire words. For example, the English word Song Liang is a blend of ma, meaning pretend in Chinese, and liang, meaning generosity in Chinese. Another example of it is the English word brunch. It is a hybrid word combining the words breakfast and lunch. So again, the four types of language borrowing, we have the loan words, loan translation, calques, and hybrid words. Language borrowing is a dynamic process that reflects cultural exchange and the evolution of languages. From loan words to hybridity, we've seen how languages adapt and borrow from each other. Now that you've learned about language borrowing, pay attention to the words you use. See if you can identify any borrowed words in your own language and explore their origins. That's it for language borrowing. Again, this is Miss ANALIE EJURANGO. And moving on to our next topic, which is language contacts, to be discussed by Miss CATAMCO. Bye!
So today, let us talk about language contact. So what is language contact? Language contact is the social and linguistic phenomenon by which speakers of different languages interact with one another. This interaction can lead to significant changes in languages, influencing vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and even the birth of entirely new languages. It's not just about borrowing few words. It's about how cultures and languages blend and influence each other over time. From trade routes in ancient times to our modern interconnected world, language communication and adaptability. It's driven by social, economic, and political forces, factors like migration, colonization, trade, and technology play pivotal roles. When people move or interact for trade due to political changes, their languages meet. This meeting can lead to the borrowing of words, the creation of Pidgin and Creole languages, or even changes in language structure. The outcomes of language contact are as diverse as the languages themselves. We see borrowing of words and phrases where one language adapts terms from another. Sometimes entirely new languages, known as Pidgin or Creole, emerge, blending elements from multiple languages into a unique identity. Language contact can also lead to code switching, where speakers alternate between languages within a single conversation or even a sentence. While language contact can enrich languages, it also possesses challenges. Language shift can occur where a community gradually shifts from using their native language to a more dominant one, sometimes leading to language loss. This highlights the importance of language preservation and respecting linguistic diversity, ensuring that languages, especially those at risk, are kept alive and appreciated for generations to come. In conclusion, language contact is a testament to human interaction and cultural exchange. It shapes the evolution of languages and reflects our interconnected world. Understanding this phenomenon helps us appreciate the richness of linguistic diversity and the importance of preserving it. Thank you.
Hello learners, I am your teacher Jehan, and for today we will talk about what is language variation and what is a register. So when we say a language variation, it refers to the differences in language used within a single language. The next is register. When we say register is a specific type of language variation that is influenced by the context of communication. Here are some examples of language variation. First is the dialect, a variety of language which can also refer to the unwritten languages of isolated areas or developing countries. Next is idiolect, the individual use of language, such as when someone's vocabulary changes after working at a German legal firm. The differences of dialect and idiolect. A dialect can be shared by group, while the idiolect, it is unique to individual. Social dialect differences in speech associated with a social group or socio-economic level. There can be influenced by age, gender, and occupation. Next is gender variation. When we say gender variation, men and women uses different languages. Man talks about things, reality, while women talks about feelings, relationship to other people. Next example is Creole, a language that is a mix of two or more languages or a simplified version of another language. For example, the Creole spoken in Haiti is mostly based on French. Next is jargon, also known as industry speak. Jargon is an example of how language is modified in group. Regional dialect, a variation language that occurs within geographical region. Language variation can be influenced by many factors, including ethnicity, age, education, occupation, gender, and geography. Now let's proceed to register, a way of using language that is appropriate for a given social context. Some examples of register include casual register, a style of language that is often used by friends and characterized by a limited vocabulary and reliance on nonverbal cues. Next is formal register, a style of language that is used in professional, official, or important situation, like example of a business meeting. Next is consultative register, a style of language that is often used when there is an expert-novice relationship between the speakers. For example, a doctor and a patient. Here are some characteristics of language variation and register. First, language variation, a complex process that is influenced by social, historical, and linguistic factor. Next is register, a social linguistic construct that can vary from minute to minute. It can be gauged on a scale of the most formal to the least formal. Next is register variation. Can be determined by factors such as the social occasion, context, purpose, and audience. Register examples. The English used in writing is different from the English used in speaking. The language used to write literature essay is different from the language used to write linguistic or biology essays. Register categories. Casual, which is usually used in a relaxed social context, and intimate, which is used between people who have a shared history. Why is it important to study English variation and register? It is because language variation and register plays vital role to our lives. It is important because it helps us understand how language is used in different contexts and how it's shaped by social and cultural factors. It can also help us use language appropriately for a given situation. That's all. Thank you.
Hello learners, welcome to Language, Culture, and Society class. I am JANMARIE BULOTANO. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to define language and power and explain how they interact in various contexts. Second, identify the three main types of power and differentiate instrumental and influential power. Third, analyze how language features are used to exert instrumental and influential power. And the last is analyze strategies used in political rhetoric to persuade and influence audience. So today we're exploring a really interesting topic: language and power. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have the ability to persuade us, or how certain rules make us behave with specific ways or with just their words? Well, language can be a powerful tool to influence, persuade, and even control others. And today, we're going to understand how. So, let's start with the basics. First is, what is language? So, according to Oxford Languages, language is a method of human communication consisting of words used in a structured and conventional way. It is also a tool to convey our message to others. So, language is simply a way we communicate. It is made up of words and follows a certain structure so that everyone understands each other. We can understand each other, right? So, without this structure, it would be very difficult to get our ideas across. And now, let's talk about power. What is power? According also to Oxford Languages, the power is the ability to do something or act in a particular way. It is also the capacity or ability to direct or influence the behavior of others. So, power is the ability to do something or influence others. For example, a teacher has the power to set rules in a classroom. And similarly, the police have the authority to enforce law. This ability to shape action or beliefs is what we call power. So, what happens when we combine language and power? We get a field of study called language and power. So, what is language and power? Language and power is the study of how language is used to assert and maintain power over others. People often use specific language strategies to influence others. Think of political leaders or like ads trying to get you buy something. Diba, they use words in a very deliberate ways to sway your choices, right? So let's move on to 3 types of power. According to linguist Sean Warang, 1999, there are 3 main types of power. The first is political power. This is held by people with authority, such as politicians and the police. For example, a police can direct a traffic or enforce law because of their position. And the second, personal power. This is based on individuals' occupation or role in society. This is held by based on their job or role. Okay, for example, a principal has more personal power in a school than a teacher does, and a teacher has more power in a classroom than a student. So that is the personal power. So the last is social group power. This is held by a group of people due to certain social factors such as class, ethnicity, gender, and or age. For example, in some situation, especially here in the Philippines, adults may have more power than a children simply because of their age, right? So that is a social group power. So Warang suggested that these 3 types of power can be divided into instrumental and influential power. So first is instrumental power is seen as authoritative power, the explicit power of the sort imposed by the state, by its laws and conventions. So this kind of power is about making sure people follow certain rules. You'll see this type of power in laws, in school, and businesses. So examples are the principals, the teachers, the principals, the government officials, and the police are the figures who have instrumental power. So next is there are 5 features of instrumental power. First is formal register, which is using polite and structured language. It sometimes sounds serious and authoritative. The next is the imperative sentence. These are the giving requests, demands, and advice. The modal verbs are the verbs which used to express permission, possibility, and obligation. You must use the words like should or must. Example, you must complete your assignments by Friday. The fourth one is the conditional sentences. These are the if-then statements. Example, if you don't respond soon, further action will be taken. And the last one is the declarative statements. These are the simple statement that is used to provide information about something or state a fact. Okay, so that is the 5 features of instrumental power. So now let's move on to influential power. This is the power that in which someone possesses or influence their opinion or decision. This type of power is often found in politics, media, and marketing. So again, influential power is about convincing or influencing someone rather than directly telling them what to do. So people with influential power try to shape others' opinion or decisions through persuasion rather than commands. So same as instrumental power, there are 4 features of influential power. The first one is the assertions. These are presenting opinions as facts. So in this feature, you are presenting your opinions as if they're facts. Or example, we all know that England is the greatest country in the world. Yes. So next is the metaphors. This is the comparing one thing to another to create an emotional effect. The next one, the third one, is the loaded language. This is language that can evoke strong emotions and exploit feelings. And the last one is the embedded assumptions. This is you assume that the listener is really interested in what the speaker has to say. So let's move on to the examples of language in power. So among other reasons, language can be used to make us believe in something or someone, to persuade us to buy something or to vote for someone, and to ensure we follow the law and behave as good citizens. So here are a few examples in language and power. Now let's see how language and power are used in politics. So politics and power, both instrumental and influential power, go hand in hand. So politicians use political rhetoric in their speeches to persuade others to give them power. So first is, what is rhetoric? So rhetoric is the art of using language effectively and persuasively. So therefore, politicians often use language very specific ways to make you agree with their ideas. So that is called rhetoric. That is called rhetoric, the art of persuasive language. So there are some strategies used in political rhetoric. So first is the repetition. from the word itself. You repeat the word or phrase to make it stick in the listener's mind, and to also to emphasize a focus on that word or phrase. The second is use of first person plural pronouns like we or us. So these words are used to create a sense of unity. Example, the politician says that we are in this together. Yeah. And the next is hyperbole. Saying something in a way that's bigger than reality to make it more impressive. Is rhetorical questions, asking questions that don't need answers, like for example is do you want to live in a better country? The last one is using imperative verbs. These verbs used to create imperative sentences like act now, or speak now, or vote now, like that. So these techniques or strategies help politicians connect with people, make message memorable, and ultimately influence decisions. So again, language isn't just about talking. It's a powerful tool that can shape what people believe, think, and do. From teachers to politicians to ads on TV, language and power influence our lives in big and small ways every day. By understanding these concepts, you'll be able to recognize when language is being used to influence or control you, and you'll have a better sense of how to respond. So now that we understand and discuss the topics, let's jump right into our activity. So our activity is a role play, and we will divide you into 4 groups, and each group will choose a topic, which is the 4 language that we just discussed. Okay, that is my lesson for today. Thank you for joining. Bye.